Being alone at night is when the world feels most vulnerable. When shadows stretch too long, every creak of the floor sounds louder, and the silence presses down until it becomes unbearable. And for some, this solitude has birthed moments of terror so profound they are never forgotten. Like the story of Daniel, a college student who had rented a small studio apartment while working on his thesis, often staying up past midnight with only the hum of his computer and the dim desk lamp to keep him company. When one evening he heard a faint tapping sound coming from his window, soft at first, almost like the branches of a tree brushing glass. Except he lived on the 4th floor with no tree even close to his building, and as the tapping grew louder, rhythmic, deliberate, he froze in his chair, realizing that whatever was outside his window was not a branch, but something trying to get his attention. And when he finally worked up the courage to pull the curtain aside, he was greeted by the pale outline of a face pressed against the glass, eyes wide, mouth stretched into a strange grin. And before he could scream, the face vanished, leaving behind only a fogged impression on the window pane. And though he called security, no one was found on the fire escape, leaving him to grapple with the knowledge that someone or something had been staring at him from just inches away while he worked alone. Another story comes from a woman named Grace, who worked nights at a quiet bookstore and often stayed late to close up, enjoying the stillness of the shelves and the smell of paper. But one evening, after locking the front door and shutting off most of the lights, she was sweeping near the back when she heard what sounded like soft footsteps on the wooden floorboards, coming from the poetry section, and assuming she had missed a customer, she called out, but no answer came. And as she walked closer, she felt a rush of cold air against her skin, despite the heating system being off. And when she turned the corner, the aisle was empty, though one book lay on the floor, its pages fluttering as if recently disturbed. And as she bent to pick it up, she heard a whisper directly in her ear, so close she could feel the breath, "Don't stay here." And dropping the broom, she bolted for the door, fumbling with her keys until she escaped into the street, her heart pounding. And when she later told her manager, he quietly admitted that former staff had also reported strange occurrences after dark, all in the same section of the store where, decades earlier, a man had collapsed and died while browsing. And though Grace never stayed late again, she could never forget the sensation of that whisper curling around her in the empty aisles. The third story belongs to Anthony, a truck driver who was used to long overnight hauls across desolate highways, finding comfort in the hum of the road and the radio crackling faintly. But one night, while driving through the desert, his headlights caught sight of a figure walking along the roadside, barefoot, wearing only a white nightshirt. And though it was unsettling, he slowed to offer help, rolling down his window to ask if she was okay. But as she turned to face him, he saw that her eyes were black, empty sockets that reflected the light in a way that made his stomach twist. And before he could react, she vanished, disappearing into the air as though she had never been there. But what made his blood run colder was when he glanced at his side mirror seconds later and saw the same figure sitting silently in the back of his truck bed, her hair whipping in the wind. Her hollow eyes locked onto his, and he drove the next 50 miles without stopping, too terrified to look back again. And when he finally pulled into a brightly lit truck stop, she was gone, leaving him shaken and unwilling to drive, alone at night for weeks afterward. These 3 stories, Daniel's horrifying encounter with the grinning face at his window, Grace's brush with the whispering presence in the darkened bookstore, and Anthony's nightmarish vision of the empty-eyed woman on the desert highway, reveal the chilling vulnerability of solitude after dark, when every sound, shadow, and movement feels amplified. And they remind us that being all alone at night does not always mean being alone, because sometimes the silence hides watchers, wanderers, or spirits who slip into our reality only long enough to remind us that the night belongs not to us, but to them.